10 years. 10 years later, after his swan song The Wind Rises, the legendary director Hayao Miyazaki has returned from retirement to give us one last animated film. How Do You Live? Oh, no, sorry, I meant The Boy and the Heron. And also, this is like his 6th time coming back from retirement. And also, this isn't his last movie either. We got a new Studio Ghibli movie, y'all. Let's talk about it. So Boy and the Heron has been in production forever. In the summer of 2016, Miyazaki began storyboarding a new feature film, though production didn't officially start until a year later with the title Kimitachi wa Dori Ikuruka, or How Do You Live, which is the novel of the same name by Genzaburo Yoshino. Miyazaki's plan was to have it released in time for the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, but was not able to. I wonder why that is. Oh, yeah, that's right. Well, eventually they began working on the film with no deadline, similar to that of one of Ghibli's previous films, The Tale of the Princess Kaguya, which resulted in production being as long as Kaguya, 8 years. A single poster and a stacked English voice cast later, we're finally in the presence of a new Ghibli film. Been a while since we've had one. Sorry, a good one. There we go. So I'm sure you all clicked on this video for one reason, and I'm pretty sure that reason is why it's doing so well in the States to begin with. It's the dang English voice cast. She agrees. Christian Bale, Gemma Chan, Florence Pugh, Mark Hamill, Dave Bautista, Willem freaking Dafoe. With a blend of Ghibli Dub alumni and new faces, they all did a great job. I love that the reason why they brought back Christian Bale was because in the Japanese version of the film, Mahito's father Shoichi is voiced by Takeo Kimura, who voiced Hal in Howl's Moving Castle, so the English production cast was basically like, how about we do the same for our dub?
That's my girl.
They brought back other people from the past, like Mark Hamill, who was in the English dub for Castle in the Sky, and Willem Dafoe from Tales from Earthsea. And we'll honestly, the best part about that movie. But the newcomers were so good as well. Gemma Chan is always a delight to witness. I love my girl Astrid so much. Oh, and here's a special shout out to Karen Fukuhara, who brings such a youthful energy to Lady Hime, who was also really good. Luca Potovin is also wonderful, bringing a nice balance of stoicism yet also innocence to Mahito. It feels strange saying this about celebrity voice casting, which as much as I would have appreciated bringing in people who do voice acting as a full-time job, the actors felt well suited for their roles. It's arguably the most notable English voice cast the distributor G Kids has had for one of their films, which makes sense since it's a new release from one of the most acclaimed directors ever. But I feel like I'm forgetting someone. Am I? Yes. Nice to see you again, Rob. How nice is it that we got a little lighthouse reunion with Rob and William appearing in the movie again? The characters don't speak directly, only the heron addressing the pelican, but whatever, still cool. Like I said, I'm typically against casting A-list celebrities in mainstream animated films for the sake of marketing, but believe me when I say that Robert Pattinson is one of the best examples of an A-lister actually voice acting in cinema history. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a big fan of his. Now yes, we saw something like this recently with Jack Black in the Super Mario Bros. Movie, but come on! You're telling me you would have been able to pick out Rob from that voice?
Save me, Mahito! Your mother, she's awaiting your rescue. I'll be your guide.
It makes me so happy to hear how excited he was to be in this. I mean, who wouldn't? The fact that he already nailed the voice before the first recording session, and that said recording sessions only took 2 days. What might be crazier is that according to the voice director Michael Sinter-Nicholas, he was doubtful, stating, "I thought he was a fine actor, but there was nothing in his body of work to indicate that he would do this sort of crazy thing." Nothing in his body of work?
If I had a steak, I was a fucking human being. You could call me I eat hot dogs.
Okay. I may not like every movie he's in, but what I do know is that Rob chooses projects that genuinely interest him, which means he commits, and The Boy and the Heron is no different. He can do a wide range of accents depending on the character, but it's astonishing to hear him put together an entirely new voice. It's super gravelly and oh my gosh, it's so good, but I hope he didn't damage his vocal cords or something. Okay, now let's talk about the actual movie, and yep, like a lot of Miyazaki movies, it's kinda quirky. You got Robert Pattinson, frogs crawling up Mahito chanting "join us" or whatever, an entire society of anthroparakeets, goop, goop, a lot of goop. Robert Pattinson. Does it take a while for Mahito to get isekai'd? Yes, but I was still genuinely invested. The gray heron pops up here and there during the first act as I try to figure out what the heck his deal is, and how it seems like he's imaginary since he disappears just when other characters show up. This is random, but I like the detail of how we never exactly get a good look at Mahito's mother, only that of Natsuko, who we've been told happens to look almost exactly like her. There's a sense of tragedy there, that there's going to be one point in which Mahito tries to remember his mother's face, but all he's going to remember is Natsuko's. It reminded me of an episode from Avatar where Sokka reveals to Toph that when he tries to remember his mother's after her death, he can only picture Katara's face. Anyway, look how cute the Wada Wada are. It's not a Miyazaki movie till you got a bunch of weird little guys running around. The way they inflate and you can lightly bounce them in your hand, I just want to hold one. They're just so silly and precious. So another thing I really like about this movie is the use of ma. First of all, ma is the Japanese concept of negative or empty space. Now I've been learning about art the past couple years, so if you excuse me while I become a pretentious art nerd for a minute, but take The Great Wave off Kanagawa by Hokusai for example. I love it, you love it, we've all seen it before. You see how the sky in the background is left undetailed so that your eyes are naturally drawn to the main subject of the print, the Great Wave? The background is ma. This is a staple of the genre of ukiyo-e, as you can see from more examples from Hokusai. All this to say is that the concept of ma can also be used in storytelling itself, in which Miyazaki uses a lot of in his films. Brief, mundane moments that aren't particularly groundbreaking in the grand scheme of the movie but help establish the world and characters. Ashitaka rinsing his bowl before scooping water, Chihiro adjusting her shoes so that they fit properly, or in the case of Boy and the Heron, Natsuko pointing out the location of Shoichi's factory or Mahito getting a cup of water to drink. They didn't have to animate those extra 100 or so frames, they didn't need those couple seconds, but all these moments make the fantastical worlds feel all the more real for the characters and, by extension, the audience. You won't find a lot of these moments in mainstream blockbusters in the States. Something must always be entertaining you or making you laugh, giving you some kind of stimulation. But I think a recent example of ma found in a Hollywood movie would be when Barbie looks over at an old woman sitting on a park bench and tells her she's beautiful. They only exchange a couple words, and immediately afterwards Barbie leaves with Ken and the old woman is never to be seen again. But that is what ma is all about. Fleeting moments of levity or peace that can feel just as powerful as the I'm Just Ken musical number or Gloria's empowering speech about feminism. The fact that this small moment was so close to being cut as ordered by studio executives just proves the contrast of American and Japanese filmmaking. Now I gave my praises to the English voice cast, but I figured since they're getting most of the attention in the States, I might as well give credit to the original Japanese voice cast. That's actually why I've seen it thrice so far. 1 sub, 2 dubs. I already mentioned Takeya Kimura as Shoichi, who's great, but you have other Japanese voice actors from previous Ghibli movies who returned for this film. Some like Eiko Takashita, Kaoru Kobayashi, and Jun Kunimura. It's like how Wes Anderson will have recurring actors in his films. Neat. So I saw the sub first, which of course means I know Japanese is the film's original language, but I somehow found myself being surprised that Masaki Suda as the gray heron sounded like Robert Pattinson, even though it's the other way around. It just made me realize that wow, did Rob really nail that voice. I mean, if you told me the Japanese and English voices were performed by the same guy, I totally would have believed you. Anyway, this movie's been receiving some criticism about being vague and convoluted. Perhaps the movie's use of ma is only adding to that. Highway to the spoiler zone, baby. Skip to this time code if you haven't seen this movie yet for whatever reason. Ready? Let's go. These criticisms are why I think the original title, How Do You Live, fits much more than The Boy and the Heron. Mahito is transported to some kind of before life, but much like the style of ukiyo-e, feels dreamier than other movies that have utilized the setting like Soul or 9 Days. It has dream logic where in the first act you're not sure whether or not the heron is actually talking to Mahito. There's evidence of, oh, it was just a dream, and, or was it? What's commonly said about Miyazaki movies is that you don't need to understand them, it's how it makes you feel is what's most important. And this is coming from someone who doesn't vibe with Howl's Moving Castle. Guess the only thing I can say about it is that I don't understand everything, but that's what I like about it. Like the parakeets are kinda kooky, I don't totally understand everything about them, but I've come to theorize other aspects of the film. At first I didn't understand why Mahito began calling Natsuko his mother in the delivery room, but my guess is that he's now accepting him as his new mother. She was very loving towards him in the beginning, excited about the fact that she's carrying his baby brother, so I think him referring to her as one shows his character development. Or even at the end when Natsuko and Mahito leave the dream world and the heron / now Birdman tells Mahito that he's eventually going to forget his experiences, much like what Haku said to Chihiro at the end of Spirited Away. But here's another random detail. There's one scene where the Parakeet King is able to slash multiple flights of stairs in one slice. I mean, it's cool, but who does he think he is, Goemon? I kid, but it was kind of funny. Seriously though, it's great, it really is. Much like the movie itself, my thoughts don't exactly come together in a cohesive manner, but I still vibe with it. Yet at the same time, I can't totally say it's a 10 out of 10 Ghibli masterpiece. Although the first act in Natsuko's house kept me intrigued, I started feeling the runtime in the third act and kind of wanted things to wrap up. I know with all my talk of Ma, it sounds hypocritical, but I suppose there were some lulls, like when it cuts back to Shoichi in the real world. But the scene of him believing that Mahito was transforming into a parakeet was funny. However, I do find myself appreciating Ghibli movies the more I watch them, and yeah, I've seen this twice so far, but I don't think it's inherently wrong if I need to watch it 2 more times. Maybe that's what I need to do to appreciate Howl's Moving Castle. I don't know, I'll get around to it eventually. So far my rating is an 8 out of 10, but hey, that's what it used to be for what I consider my favorite Ghibli movies now. Also, I mentioned earlier that the original Japanese title is based on a novel of the same name, so I looked into it, and while this movie isn't an adaptation, it makes me want to check it out. Maybe I can do a video on the two and see how they're similar to one another. Perhaps. Now, another thing I mentioned was the North American distributor for The Boy and the Heron, G-Kids, and how this is probably their most stacked cast they've ever had. But what really makes me happy is how big this movie is for them. The fact that this is the second film of theirs they got to show on IMAX screens, and in wide release no doubt, is so incredible to see. They've done such a wonderful job distributing some of my favorite, not just animated movies, but movies period from around the world, all of which began when I saw Song of the Sea and Princess Kaguya in theaters in 2014, which was how I became so passionate about international animation in the first place. Please, if you enjoyed The Boy and the Heron, then check out all the other films they've distributed, you won't regret it. Here's hoping they receive more much-deserved success in the future. Now if you excuse me, I gotta catch up on my 2023 releases for my best movies of 2023 video, which should be up in a couple weeks. I got so caught up with the fall semester, and it's why I was barely able to get a single video out during that entire time, or even see all the good indie movies that came out in theaters. Anyway, be sure to comment, like, and subscribe for more videos on animated films, and I will see you later.